Want to build a thriving business while making a much bigger impact in the world by becoming known as an influential voice in your industry? The choice versus just a choice with your ideal client? That's exactly what you're going to learn as I interview business experts, industry thought leaders, and entrepreneurs who are in the trenches making their mark so you can too. This is the award-winning podcast, The Ambitious Entrepreneur Show, and I'm your host, Anne-Marie Cross. And welcome to another episode. Today, I'm talking to Shane Mishler. Shane is the Chief Operating Officer for SD Tech, and he oversees the daily operations of the company. And he partners with the owner to design and implement business strategies, plans, and processes. Now, Shane is actively involved in all of the company's investments and clients, strategic franchise partners, as well as expansion activities. Now, on today's show, he's going to share the importance of back-end technology to grow and manage a business. He's going to talk about the emerging technology and tools that is going to best serve your interests, as well as how to build relationships with your clients for long-term growth, and so much more. Welcome to the show, Shane.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, look, my pleasure. I always like to start off an episode with giving our guests an opportunity to share kind of a snapshot, an overview of the path that led them down the journey to where they are today. What was that for you, Shane?
So I have spent a lot of time over the last year really reflecting on what got me to where I am today. And I've got to say, a lot of it had to do with what happened during my teenage years. I am the oldest of eight kids. My mother was a single mother, and my youngest brother and sister are only about 11 and a half years younger than I am. So by the time I was 15, there were 8 children ranging in all ages and sizes, and 1 to 2 adults in the house. So we had a very large house, and my mom was holding down 3 part-time jobs, so she was often away, and I was left to help do my best to manage a very chaotic household. And I don't think that I realized how much that impacted my leadership decisions until much, much later. But that upbringing, the opportunity to work with so many very different personalities in that family situation, really helped me to get to where I am. Over the last 20 years, I've worked in the service industry. I spent 5 years in the service industry. I spent 5 years in oil and gas as a roughneck working on an oil rig. And then I spent 10 years, 2 different companies working in corporate management, upper management. And then I left and I came and joined SD Tech. And it's been an amazing journey over the last 5 years. This is the smallest company I've ever worked for. And although it was established with 20 years underneath its belt, I came on as the 5th employee. So it was a really interesting opportunity to step into an established company that still felt like a startup. And over
Yes.
the last 5 years, we've tripled our employee base and quadrupled our revenue and franchised, and it's been an amazing journey.
Wow. And such a diverse and rich background you have. And I'm a firm believer that every single opportunity that you've had through life, whether it be different industries, different positions, different placements, can really inform or give you a deeper level of appreciation and information and insights into the new place that you're at, that can really foreshadow incredible things, and obviously incredible things have happened in that business now. So let's talk about the technology then. How important do you believe technology can play can play a place in developing long-term relationships? Because often we don't really see how one can really support the other. What have you come to learn over the years, and how can the technology that we have at our fingertips today help us to build long-term relationships with clients?
So it's really interesting, right? I think that when you ask that question, Anne Marie, how can technology support our relationships? I think the vast majority of people are going to jump towards social media and how social media has helped keep us connected over the years. Typically, in my experience, that's very surface level connectivity, though. Great for keeping up with your old high school pals that you're not really that close with, but you still want to pretend to be. LinkedIn can be a great place to build some professional relationships, but in my eyes, social media is very surface level. Um, but outside of that, their technology can support relationship building in a lot of very different ways. So when podcasts first hopped out on the scene, they were typically done local. You had either the host, and if there was a guest, they were going to be sitting at the same table, and the audio or video was being recorded and then shared out across to thousands of listeners, hopefully. And now we have the opportunity, thank you, technology, to being able to do this. And I'm in San Antonio, Texas. And Anne Marie, where are you located?
In Melbourne, Australia.
Yeah. We could not have been able to build the relationship that we have even in this moment without the help of technology. Well, I
Mm.
guess we could have if we spent thousands of dollars on flights and hotels and getting us together, but this is a great opportunity. We see multitudes of businesses that allow for work from home, and you can't run a successful company if you don't have strategic relationship building inside of your office. But now our offices are remote and they're spread out, and that's thanks to technology and how we're interacting with our employees, how we're interacting with our clients. And so there's a variety of ways that I believe it can help. But
Yeah.
regardless of which way you're going about it, it's a must.
Yeah, I agree. I remember when I started my very first co-hosted podcast chain, it was back in 2008, and the technology that we had to use back then, it was Blog Talk Radio, and the audio for Blog Talk, I'm sure it's changed now, but anyway, back then it wasn't what it was today. But my co-host and I, he was based in Melbourne, but he was down further towards the beach, and we would often ring in. But we have found that the development of technology has allowed for now, as you've said, streaming, bringing lots of different people from different locations together, and the quality is just incomparable to what it was. It's great quality. But I want to talk more about what you have said in the first point, the importance of back end technology to grow and manage a business. What do you mean when you talk about back end technology so that everyone kind of is on the same page? What is that? What are you referring to?
So this, depending on who you're talking to, you're going to have very different answers, right? Even within my market, within the tech field. But to me, your front-facing technologies are going to be like your website, um, maybe Zoom. That would be a little bit more of a front-facing technology. Your back your back-end technology is going to be, I would say, more along the lines of email, Office 365, the underlying technologies that help bring us all together and keep us connected. And then as far as interconnectivity, and then additional background or back-end technologies, it's going to vary greatly depending on the client base. But here, our front-facing technology, I would say, is StreamYard, right? The platform that we're actually hosting the podcast on. And then the back-end technologies, well, that would be the software that allows it to run. The back-end technologies for you and I would absolutely have been Office, where we're able to connect over email and loop in other people. So it's going to vary quite a bit. But regardless of what industry you're in, the the systems that you have in place that allow for that interconnectivity are vital. And we've seen a lot of different ones come and go. But like Slack, I don't know if you're familiar with Slack. Slack's a
Mhm.
great inter-office connectivity tool. Office 365, Google, and they have all of these different platforms that have a lot of technology on the back end that allow for us all to come together.
Yeah. So important. One of the conversations that I've often had with many entrepreneurs, and many of the conversations that I have, because they're my clients, are coaches. So they may be solo entrepreneurs or solo working for themselves, and they may have a very small virtual team. So they're using technology such as Slack to talk to their contractors and so forth. But one of the feedbacks that I get all the time, and you may too, is that look, we've got a lot of different tech, and they feel scattered all over over the place. Nothing is really integrated and working well together. And it feels like we've got a lot of plates in the air or balls in the air that we're juggling. And we don't want to, we don't want to shift too much because then the whole lot is going to crumble. What sort of things do you hear, Shane, over and over again with technology becoming almost like a bottleneck because there's either too many pieces of technology or they're not using the right technology for the needs and the stage of business growth that they're at in their business? What's some of the feedback you get?
So, Anne-Marie, over the last 5 years, since I have been with SD Tech, where we are serving technology as a service to a multitude of clients, I actually haven't heard very many complaints. What's
Mhm.
interesting is it was in my years in corporate America prior to being on this side where I did hear about it on a regular basis, and I would have thought that that would be the opposite. You would think that having a variety of 250 clients would open us up to more feedback,
Mm.
but our clients are pretty happy. But we also help them find the right tools for the job. So looking back, though, I remember the last company I worked for, we absolutely had the issue you're talking about, where anytime we ran into a new issue or we had an idea and we knew that technology was going to support it, it always felt like we had to find a brand new solution. And then you have to get that new solution integrated in with all of the current solutions, and either things wouldn't work or it would take a long time for them to work well. And what I find is that oftentimes it has to do with when a company is using proprietary software and it's the
Yeah.
tools that they have developed in-house, and then they're trying to build off of those. And oftentimes it's because it leads to outdated um, code that was used to build the platforms, or very frequently it's because the people who built the platforms no longer work with the company, and so then they're having to bring in new employees who are having to dig through the code, and oftentimes it gets referred to as digging through a plate of spaghetti, and you're trying to make sense of it, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of work. um, what I find is that if you can keep things fairly simple, it's usually the best. And technology is complex, and there's so much of it. But if you have an idea in mind and you can work with a good partner from early on, you
Mm.
can you can forecast what the vision of that's going to look like, and you can get some of the pieces of the puzzle to match up early on rather than trying to build on it 5 years down the road.
Yes. It's one of those things, isn't it? When you're in business, you don't want to invest or bite off too much more than you can chew, if I can use that analogy. However, you also want to have tech that is able to expand with you. That you don't have to put all these piecemeals together, and there's a fine balance between the two. And if a business is not aware of what's available and all of those different things, it can become very overwhelming for them, which is, I guess, why organizations such as yours are so valuable to have on side. So, if you were thinking about some of the key pieces of technology. And I know that this is a question, which is, well, how long is a piece of string? But if you're thinking about a business who is looking, because they recognize the value of building relationships, long-term relationships. And we also know in business that from a time that someone finds out about your business to the time where they make a purchase and they say yes, can be some time. And for some businesses, that customer journey can be months, if not longer. What technologies would you then say is important for them to have, to be able to leverage, so that they can continue to build that relationships? And this is sort of like automation type tools, so that a customer can self-select some of the things that they need to find out about the business and be educated and so forth. And then a business doesn't necessarily need to be there with a team member to give some of that information. What sort of technologies do you recommend that they have in place to support them in that area?
So it's a great question, because depending on what industry you're in, you're right. It can take a long time from the time that you begin working with a lead
Yeah.
until that lead becomes a client. And in some industries, that might be a 5-minute phone call, and it might be really quick and really easy. In my industry, Um, three of the larger clients that we've landed over the last 18 months, we
Mm.
worked on for 3 years.
Wow.
We had 3 different clients in the last 18 months that we onboarded and that we had been working with between 2 to 3 years, from the time
Mm.
of initial contact until the time where we were signing agreements and going to work together. And if you don't have tools in place, that's a lot of sticky notes. I don't know how you're keeping up with all of it, but it can get out of hand really quick. So there's a couple pieces of software that I really like, and I'm not overly sold on any one, so, I don't partner with any of these companies, so I'm not plugging them. But there's CRMs that have built-in, sales strategy, and so they will help manage your email campaign, your voice campaigns, and they have great databases already built into them, so that way you can plug in, "I reached out to Anne Marie on this date. I've emailed her on this date," and then it's gonna have automation where you can plug in saying, "I would like to build out ahead of time, what a couple of these email or whatever route you're going, you can build out what the subject is going to look like, and then you can automate it to say send this out once a week, once every other week, just want to touch base, or if you want to keep things more personal, you can just have it pop up and populate your email calendar, so that way it's a good reminder saying, oh hey, it's been 2 weeks, let's make sure that we're touching base with this client. And then these databases have excellent spots for your notes and a
Mhm.
variety of tools that will help you keep track of things. And there's several good ones, but typically you're going to be looking for like a sales CRM, uh,
Mm.
HubSpot, HubSuite. There's a variety that I have found that work really well, and then it comes down to figuring out what industry and what
Yeah.
pieces of software can really be tailored to which clients.
Yeah. And I would imagine that if you look back to those clients that you have been able to onboard, that whole relationship building, the information that you sent, each of those touch points or whatever you might like to call it, those interactions have continued to add value and obviously whatever that value would have been for those clients at that time. And it's very difficult to track if you don't have a system that's able to track or remind you. And as you said, you relying on sticky notes, because I would imagine that you might have hundreds of different potential clients that you are managing through different relationships. And yeah, we don't want things to slip through the cracks because there
You
is
don't.
so much competition out there that if you're not regularly keeping in touch with someone, there is probably some other company who's offering a similar service as you that is vying their attention. So that's really important. What about some of the emerging technology and tools that you say is best going to serve their interests that some people may not really either know about or they've heard about it, yet they're not leveraging it to the best of the ability that this technology offers? What are some of these emerging technologies?
So I would say that right now, um, this question, although I could probably think of 10 to 15 different answers, there's one answer that I believe nearly every one of my clients can find benefit in if they spend time learning how to use it. But we've all heard, I think everybody has heard about Chat GPT over the
Mm.
last year or so, and how OpenAI it can help with a variety of things. But the majority of people don't utilize it any more than help me write an email. There are a plethora of tools, different companies that have emerged that are utilizing this AI infrastructure and can plug in with whatever email service you're using, whether that's Outlook or Gmail or a variety of others. And it's a plugin that will go into your inbox and will assist you in sorting through your email. It will assist you in identifying what emails may have come in that require an action on your part, which is fantastic because I don't know about you, but I get hundreds of emails every day, and it's very easy for me to overlook something.
Yeah.
So it will help prioritize those tasks. You can customize based off of what you're using. You can customize them to auto populate into your calendar. It can create to-do list for you, and depending on your level of busyness, that is the number one tool that I would suggest anybody to look into. Just AI extensions for your email. It
Yeah.
has been very, very beneficial for me. And whether you're an architect or a lawyer or a real estate agent or a small business owner, that is the one tool where I believe over the next 2 to 3 years we're going to see even more people adapting that into their workday.
Yeah, it's one of those things we use as part of our service, a company or technology called Cast Magic, and that allows you to input your audio, and then it, transcriptions and a whole multitude of different things. I think they call them packages, which you add to the piece of software that then creates maybe a newsletter or highlights, certain quotes and things like that. Um, it's amazing how this technology, there's things that are available that you didn't even realize. And why I mention that is because I was clicking around the technology and I went, I didn't even realize that was there. How often we don't know what we don't know is available and continues to evolve. What do you do as a business? Because you're obviously working with clients, and we'll give you an opportunity to share a little bit more in a moment, the services and how you can help people. But in your line of work, I'm sure that you always kind of keep your pulse on what's happening, what's being developed. Could this be of use to some of your clients? How do you keep on top of that without getting overwhelmed? Because you can become overwhelmed with so much information available.
There is so much out there, Emery, and the reality is I don't. I am not great at keeping up with all of the emerging technology, and whenever I try and pour more of my time into doing that, it can be overwhelming.
Mm,
I have been on a guest on, I don't know, 20 podcasts over the last 6 months, and not a single podcast has gone by where somebody hasn't asked me about AI. And
mm,
I don't work with AI day in and day out, but as a technology expert, it's a fair question. So I
yeah.
start pouring more of my own resources into learning about what's out there. And there is just so much. There's emerging companies and new technologies, and it seems like every 2 to 4 weeks somebody's had a great breakthrough, and and it's really easy to find that 3 or 4 hours has passed whenever I intended to sit down for 10 minutes.
Mm,
So I do exactly what I recommend of anybody that's listening to me, and that's I find solid partners in a variety of spaces that I can lean on, and we can get together and stay connected outside of technology, right? I
mm,
I am ingrained in technology. Everything I do, my professional life, my personal life, I love all aspects of technology. But I also really enjoy sitting down with a couple of friends, a couple of extended network members, and having a drink and saying, "Hey, can you tell me a little bit about what you found recently?" And I'll share a little bit about what I found recently because that is the best way to keep up to date with things. And then,
yes.
as a managed service provider, we have a software as a service reseller who we partner with, and their job is to go out and do research and development, and we
Mhm.
stay connected. They know my business, they know my clients, and they assist me in identifying software that is going to better assist my own clients. And so I have
Yeah.
a variety of partners that I can keep in touch with because it's too much for any one person.
Yes, yes. And, thinking about that, and I love that as a reminder for us, is that sometimes we can become so distracted by the noise, we forget that, we may be using the technology at the moment that is best suits our needs. And it's often the distraction about all of these things, the bright, shiny objects. And I have to say that I am one of those people that because I like technology too. Back in the day, like back in 2008, for many years, people would say, what on earth are you doing a podcast for? Now, 2024, I say that's why, because we didn't know that it would grow so
It was a good
big
call.
and popular. But there was something about that technology that we just loved using, and it was a way to connect with people around the world. But it has to be, I guess, you want to have a little bit of a foot in the different camps, but having those key connections of people who that's part of their job. You don't have to do a lot of the research, but you can share information. I love that, and don't let it get distracted from what you are as a business owner, what your primary goal is, and what you do, with clients and so forth. How can you leverage technology to the best of your ability? Let me ask you this: over the years, and this is probably a difficult question to answer because I know it would be for me too. Is there been one piece of technology that has been introduced into the market change that you've seen has become a really big game changer? Have you seen? Is there, or would that be Chat GPT, AI, or is it a more simpler piece of technology that has made a real significant difference in your life and
For
maybe your clients?
for me, okay, so this is gonna age me a fair bit. For me, the biggest piece of technology has been available and easy access to the internet.
Mm,
I am old enough to remember when I was in my young years and my teen years, and even in my early 20s, the internet was around. We all knew what the internet was, but I didn't have regular access to the internet until I was a late teenager and in my early 20s.
mm,
I remember when our first groups of cell phones didn't have the access that we have today, and that's changed everything.
yeah.
And now I actually do think that ChatGPT, or not ChatGPT itself, but I
Mm.
believe that that has the potential to be what the internet was in the early 2000s. And I think that over the last 2 years, we have just barely scratched the surface, and we don't know how it's actually going to impact us. It's very similar to being around in the early 2000s when the internet was becoming more available.
I remember a time when there weren't that. I'm aging myself now where we didn't have the internet, but I'm with you. It's one of those things. Oh, I'll just you have your assumption. You think I'm just going to go check that on Google, and it's not till when you don't have the internet connection. We had a couple of our providers that have just gone out out of service, and it's kind of caused us to people to think, well, hang on a minute, governments around the world are trying to push for digital, currency and so forth. With all the electricity and things that are going down, I think cash is still very much are going to be looked at using, because how do we continue, to exchange if we don't have a way to do that, if the internet's down or electricity's down? So I love that. I love that. So how can people find out more about you? And please give us a little bit of a snapshot about what your company SD Tech does.
So I'll keep the snapshot nice and short. I when I first started working with SD Tech, I understood it was an MSP. And coming from a corporate lifestyle, acronyms get thrown around all the time, and half of the time they have no meaning. So I was like, okay, what's an MSP? And it's a managed service provider. And I was like, great, that still means nothing to me. 5 years later, managed service provider means next to nothing to me. The reality of what my company does, what I do, is we partner with primarily small to medium businesses. We do have a couple of large businesses that we partner with as well. And we help identify, so consultation, we help identify what technologies will best suit their employees and their clients. We source those technologies, and then, right, so we go out, we purchase them, we get everything set up for them, we implement it into their business, and then we manage those products afterwards. So what that really looks like is it greatly varies from company to company. But for somebody like yourself, Anne-Marie, where, like, just for the podcast, if you came to me bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and you were like, I want to start a new podcast, but I don't know where to begin, we would help you find the platform. We would assist you in getting a laptop or a computer that's going to be good. I would help you identify a great microphone, which you have, and the boom, all of the technology that supports it. And then we would get everything set up for you. And then a week later, when you're like, hey, I have no idea how to use any of this, we're there to support you. In a larger office, that's going to look quite a bit different. We help get their computers, their networking, their internet. We are a VoIP, so a phone service provider. We bring everything together, we package it up nicely, we get it all set up, we provide training, and then ongoing support. That's in a nutshell, that's what we do.
It's like having a tech team, but it's not as part of you. It is part of your business, but they're not in-house, if that makes
They're
sense.
not in-house.
It's like VAs, we use VAs, virtual assistants, around the world and tap into their expertise, but yeah, they're not actually in-house that, every single day kind of thing, which is brilliant because you do the best in what you do, which is tech and all of that, and through the partners that you partner with, leaving the business, your client, to focus on what they do best themselves. And through it's a match that works really, really well. And so to find you and SD Tech, I would imagine just Google SD Tech.
That is the easiest way to do it. That is my preferred way of doing it. You can also just go to our URL is sd-tech.net. That's our nice little website. And you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm on there more often than I would like to be, but it's important to stay connected. So you can find me, Shane Mishler, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Consultation is always free. I love talking about technology, and more importantly, I love talking about business. So I like meeting new people, finding out what they do, and then help find ways that technology is going to support what they do best. And hopefully that's making money.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and do recommend that to anyone who's listening or even the recording to certainly reach out to Shane. And I did have a look on LinkedIn, and you got lots of great content there as well to share, and a great way to connect. I do like LinkedIn. It's a great platform to connect that way as well. So thanks once again for coming on the show, Shane.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, it's Anne-Marie. Before I go, are you a coach or a consultant who feels like the world's best kept secret? Your experience is vast, yet secretly you're frustrated because despite all of your hard work, you're just not getting the visibility, the recognition, or new clients you'd hope for, and you don't know why? I've created a free resource that'll help you build visibility, generate leads, and enroll dream clients with ease because you're seen as a trusted authority, even in a crowded marketplace. And you've positioned yourself as the choice versus just a choice for your dream client. To get started, go to annemariecross.com/gift. That's annemariecross.com/gift.